I'm Rachel Hernandez, real estate investor turned mobile home investor and best-selling author. I make a living investing in mobile homes for cash flow for long-term passive income. After many mistakes and lessons learned, I've been able to create the kind of life where I can do the types of things I want to do, not have to do. I created the Adventures in Mobile Homes podcast to share with you what I've learned so you can spend more time with family, friends, and do things you love. Mobile home investing can help you get there. If you want to hear real stories with practical and actionable advice you can use from someone who's been in the trenches and who's still investing today to create the type of life you love, then you're in the right place. Let's get started. Well, hey there, and welcome to the Adventures in Mobile Homes podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Hernandez, aka Mobile Home Girl of AdventuresinMobileHomes.com. Thank you so much for joining me here on the 22nd episode of the podcast. Now, just in case you missed it, be sure to tune in to the last episode where I go over the second part of my series on how to value mobile homes when you're just getting started as a mobile home investor. You can find it along with the show notes at www.adventuresinmobilehomes.com/21, and that is the number 21. Okay, so let's get started. So last week, I talked about how to value mobile homes when you're out inspecting them with sellers, whether they be out in parks and or on land. Again, it's really important to take the time to inspect both the inside and the outside of every mobile home that you visit, and do it in the daytime while there's still light. Believe me, you don't want to go out there late at night when you can't see anything. Otherwise, you may miss a few areas, which may be costly if you end up buying the home, which isn't a good thing. But today, I want to shift gears and talk about something that I've been doing for a very long time in both my business life and my personal life, and that is writing things down. Even in this day and age, with digital technology, smartphones, and computers, it's still very important to take the time to write things down and reflect. There's just something about good old pen and paper that you just can't beat. And honestly, it's one of the secrets to my success as a mobile home investor, which can help you too to achieve success. And I'll tell you why. But before we move on, let's hear a word from our sponsor. Hey there, Rachel here. Guess what? I've got a new project that I've been working on, and that is a new store exclusively on Amazon for notebooks, journals, planners, logbooks, and any other business-related books to help you become more productive as a real estate investor and a mobile home investor. And they're made especially for you. By a real estate investor, for real estate investors. In this day and age of technology, we still write things down and use good old pen and paper. And honestly, I've done this throughout my personal life as well as in my life as a real estate investor. And it's worked and has helped me to become more productive and successful. So, if you're looking for some books to help you become more productive, or looking for a gift for a friend or a family member, check it out. I've got you covered. You can find it at www.adventuresinmobilehomes.com/store. Again, www.adventuresinmobilehomes.com/store. Follow me there to get the latest updates on new book releases. I'll be releasing more books in the future. And let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy them as much as I like designing them. Now, back to the show. Okay, first things first. You may be asking yourself, Rachel, what is the big deal about writing things down? Especially with pen and paper. Why can't I just use my phone or my computer to jot down notes? Seriously, what time period are you living in? Okay, I hope I gave you all a good chuckle. Ha ha, for those of you out there laughing. But I know there's a few of you who are listening to this who are saying to yourself, Rachel, I get it, because I write things down myself, and it works. So, what in the world am I talking about when I say the secret of my success is writing things down and reflecting? Can I just write things down digitally or remember things on my own without having to write them down? Plus, why should I use a paper to talk about my thoughts? I'd like to save some trees if I can. Okay, before you hit stop on this episode, let me explain. I've been writing things down since I've been in school. And I'm not just talking about high school or college. I'm talking about grade school. Even when I didn't have to for an assignment. I was doing it for fun, or to write a story, or to reflect on my own life, on what happened that day, or that week, for that matter. And I did it all using paper, whether using the paper itself or using notebooks and journals. And guess what? No one read these except me. So, what was the point of all this? Maybe I just didn't have enough friends, which is kind of true as a young entrepreneur starting out at an early age. And yet another story I may tell in another episode of this podcast down the road. But not today. Getting back to it, I wrote to get out my feelings, whether it be feelings of happiness, joy, sadness, anger, frustration, or whatever I was feeling that particular day, to get me to write about an event or situation that happened. To make me write about it meant it was important to me, but even more, it gave me an opportunity to reflect on what I just wrote, my feelings, and whatever it was that I was writing about. Call it a mental exercise that I've carried with myself, even to this day. So, what does this have to do with mobile home investing and finding success with it? How has writing things down helped me to be successful as a mobile home investor? Well, I'll tell you. By writing things down, it has helped me to remember things. Let me explain. So, I write everything down, and I mean everything. I have notebooks upon notebooks of things I write about. Not just for the mobile home investing business, but for my personal life as well. So, what do I mean by this? Well, let's talk about my notebooks and what they've done for me. On the personal side, I have a journal and many other journals from the past, which I've filled up, that I write in regularly. Now, this journal is a personal journal, which I use to write things down in my personal life on what has happened and how life has been going. Anything significant that has happened to me, I write in this journal. But apart from my personal journal, I also have a journal specifically for the mobile home investing business. Here, I write about what has happened in the business so far, including goals, plans, deals, both the good and the bad. The good times, the bad times, and lessons learned. Plus, I write down any plans or ideas I have for the future. But it doesn't stop there. I also have journals and notebooks for leads that come in when I get phone calls, both for sellers and buyers or renters, which I separate. And I also have one for when I take meetings with my network, which include park managers, owners, mobile home dealerships, contractors, and anyone else I talk to in the daily course of my mobile home investing business. Apart from that, I have other journals set aside for when I'm doing training, whether it be in person or online. And also, I buy journals to bring with me to conferences to take notes. For every single event that I attend. Again, whether it be virtual or in person. So you may be asking yourself, why so many journals and notebooks? Why do I do it? And what can it do for you? Well, that's simple. I write things down to remember. It's not enough for me to store things digitally. Sure, we can always input things in our computer or on our smartphone, but do we really remember these things? Do we really go back and look at our notes that we input digitally? Because honestly, if it's not something physical right in front of us, we may forget. And I do it all the time. even when I write things digitally, including notes, phone numbers, to-dos, and appointments. Which is why I have to set reminders for appointments a couple of days and even hours in advance. Because we can't remember everything. But there's just something about writing things down that makes us remember and brings nostalgia when we go back to read the things that we wrote. For anyone out there who does journaling or has journaled in the past, you know what I'm talking about. When you write a journal and go back to it, whether it be days, months, or even years, reading about things that you wrote, things that happened, feelings that you had, and how you handled certain situations, it's that sense of nostalgia because we wrote it down and are looking at a piece of paper with our own writing, whether you print or handwrite. That a digital note or document just doesn't have. And this is one of my secrets to success as a mobile home investor. It's because I write things down that I remember. Whether it be when I'm by myself, reflecting, and doing my own journaling, or if I'm taking a meeting with a park manager or a contractor. Because it's not that easy to take digital notes when you're in meetings. And honestly, writing things down is natural and should come natural because we learned how to do it at an early age. And even kids today, when they learn in school, they still write things down on paper using pencils or pens. Despite technology having computers and smartphones with us everywhere. If you listen to this podcast regularly, you'll remember podcast episode 12, where I talk about setting up your business. In that episode, I talk about how I planned to use a laptop for the business exclusively and saw myself writing up contracts, including taking notes when doing business for the mobile home investing business, all digitally through a laptop. But soon, I found I didn't need it. It wasn't necessary. Why? Because I still wrote things down. And that included doing contracts, whether with buyers, sellers, and or renters. It's just a part of our culture and the way it's been done throughout history. In that episode, I mention having a dedicated notebook to take with you everywhere as you have meetings and talk to people as an essential tool for your mobile home investing business. Just in case you missed it, I'll link up the episode here in the show notes. Now, I'm not saying it's bad to do things digitally. There are some things, whether they are quick notes, to-dos, or appointments, which are good to store digitally, whether in your computer or smartphone. But it's important to not just do that, not just be digital, because you may not remember everything that you write down. And this is important when it comes to meeting people or doing training. Usually, we need to stay engaged when taking in information. And the quickest way to write down the information that we learn is to use pen and paper, hands down. It will beat a computer or a smartphone. And don't get me started on typing messages out on a smartphone. We've all been there with autofill and accidentally sending a message with a wrong word using autocorrect. Computers and technology aren't always 100% correct. They can't completely read our minds. Yes, they try, and the tools are out there to help make things easier for us humans. But they still depend on us to make decisions. Someone has to push send or type out the message or come up with the idea to type up the message on a digital device. And that's all I'm going to say about that. So, in order to be successful as a mobile home investor and remember things, it's important to journal and write things down, whether it be using paper that you have around or keeping journals and notebooks so that it's all in one place, which is what I do. Get in the habit of writing things down. This will make you remember things much quicker than if you wrote them digitally and have to find your notes in your computer or smartphone. That's just the power of writing things down and what it can do for you. Not just in your personal life, but in your business life as well. If you want to start journaling and writing things down on a regular basis, whether it be for personal, business, or both, it's really simple to do. Just get a journal or a notebook and start writing. Be sure to date every entry so that you know when you wrote it. And this goes for taking calls, whether they be from sellers, buyers, contractors, or anyone else in your network for your mobile home investing business. Write down the date, the phone number, take notes of your conversation, and anything else after you get off the phone with the person. By doing this exercise, it'll make you remember things, and you'll have something to go back to one day when you want to reflect on a conversation that you had, or a time in your life, in your business. Personally, I've kept every journal and notebook that I've had for my entire real estate investing career. Not just for the mobile home business, but even before that, when I was just starting out as a bird dog and a wholesaler, and then when I became a buy and hold landlord. Now, I will admit, I tried doing this digitally. For a while, it was okay, and I still have the digital entries in an online journal program, but it didn't last long. After a while, I grew tired of just writing notes down on a computer, and I even put the program in my phone, but I never used it. So that just goes to show you my attitude towards technology when it comes to journaling and taking notes. it just didn't work out for me. Sometimes when I get nostalgic or need to reflect on the business or my personal life, for that matter, I'll go back to my old journals and notebooks and start reading entries from years ago. Sometimes I can't believe I wrote the things that I did, or did the things that I did in the past, but it takes me back. And it's that nostalgia, reading a piece of paper or papers that you wrote with your own hand instead of digitally on a computer or a smartphone, that just doesn't give it the same feeling, which is why it's important to do this regularly to be a successful real estate investor, so that you can reflect on the past and what has worked and what hasn't worked for you, so you can think of ways to make things better for your business and your life in general. Now, I wrote a piece in my blog on why I write, which I'll link up here in the show notes if you'd like to read more. As for writing, you don't need a journal every day. You may want to get into the habit of doing it regularly, whether it be every day or every few days, once a week or every 2 weeks, or even monthly. The important thing is that you start and you get your ideas out. Then afterwards, you'll have something to go back to when you need to reflect, to see what's worked and what hasn't worked. Because honestly, it's not just doing that makes you a successful real estate investor. It's planning and taking the time to plan things out while having goals and working towards these goals so that you can move ahead. But all of this starts with your ideas when you put pen to paper. And that's when the real magic happens. So there you have it. The reason why it's important to write things down and reflect on what you write so that you can go back and see what's working and what's not working, both in your personal life as well as in your business. This is something that I think is very important and one of the keys to success for many highly successful people, including myself, no matter what industry you're in. It applies to everything in life, both personal and business. I hope this episode has helped you to see the value of and the importance of writing things down and why you should do it and how you should do it in order to help you move forward, not just when times are good, but when times are bad as well. This self-reflection will make you a better person and help you to get your ideas across and perhaps go to old ideas that you had in the past. It's definitely something that has helped me to grow and progress as a real estate investor and as a person as a whole. In any case, if you're looking to get started in journaling, I want to share with you a a special project that I've been working on. And that is a catalog of notebooks, journals, planners, and anything business related to help you be more productive. Now, these are all books designed and created by me personally, especially made for real estate investors and mobile home investors. Whether you're looking for one for yourself, a friend, or a family member, they make great gifts. And they're all exclusively available on my store on Amazon. If you'd like to check them out, you can find them at www.adventuresofmobilehomes.com/store. Again, www.adventuresofmobilehomes.com/store. Follow my author page there for the latest updates on the newest books that I add to my catalog. And let me know what you think. I hope you enjoy them as much as I like designing them. So, what did you think? Did this episode help you as a mobile home investor? I hope so. If you've enjoyed the episode and find value with it, please consider supporting the show. I've enjoyed this podcasting journey so far, and it's something that I've always wanted to do. I'll include a link in the show notes on how you can support me if you'd like to check it out. For more information on this episode, check out the show notes where I link up some of the resources mentioned here. You can find it at www.adventuresofmobilehomes.com/22. And that is the number 22. Again, www.adventuresofmobilehomes.com/22. And if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to share it with family and friends. And be sure to subscribe. If you have some time, I'd love to hear your feedback through a short Apple Podcast review. Until next time, this is Rachel Hernandez, aka Mobile Home Girl of the Adventures of Mobile Homes podcast, signing off. Thanks for listening.